All right. Welcome to AVA, everybody. Today is Thursday, November 21st, 2019. I'm Nigel Mbayak, really excited to be here with you all today. Today, I'm actually going to be doing the AVA, so a little bit different than before. Usually, I'm joined by someone right here, but today, I'm joined by someone virtually. I'm joined by my good friend, Mark Sauer at Autodesk. Mark, you on with us?
Yes, I am. I would love to start my webcam so you could see my nice little French Canadian face, but I apologize. I have some technical difficulties, but I'm glad to be here.
No worries, you should be able to now, Mark.
There we go.
You know.
Hi, everyone. Good to
Awesome.
see
I was
you.
like, where'd he go? Awesome. So Mark has actually done an AVA for us in the past. This is about the time I started here at Kativ, nearly 3 years ago. So it's nice to see you back.
Thank you.
Joining us for AVA, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. And Mark came to us, I would say, a couple months ago here with some ideas to do a 3-part webinar series all about data management, kind of revolving around the concept of data management and what it really means to benefit from formal data management within an organization, right? We all use some form of data management, whether that be as unformalized as things like network drives or, this is my external hard drive. It's got all my data on it and I'm going to pass this to that guy. Or people using things like Vault or other formal data management systems that are really, really CAD aware. And today we're going to be going over some of the advantages of those things and what it really means to take advantage and use of all of the functions and features in a formal PDM system. Mark, do you have anything to add there before we get started?
No, I'm happy to do them. So for people that might not recognize the name, you might recognize the accent. As I said, I'm from Montreal. I speak funny. I'm French Canadian first. I used to be on the technical sales side of things. Now I'm in marketing, but that doesn't mean a thing. I'm just so happy to be here. So let's get going.
Definitely, yeah. So if anyone has any questions during the webinar, go ahead and type those in, and we'll go ahead and address those as we move through here. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get squared away. Mark, go ahead and take it away.
Perfect. So thank you very much. First thing I would like to do is to make sure we're on the same playing field here. What is product data management? So in my experience, people generally have different views on what PDM is and what it can be used for. So for this particular conversation, let's define PDM as a strategy for managing your product-related data and information, along with your engineering processes, all in one single location. Now, this is the perfect definition, but we're going to get a little bit, we're going to play it slowly. So one thing I want to make sure is that we did this great survey with the company named Tech Clarity. We got great results. And this is one result or graph that I was so adamant that we keep. So product complexity has increased, but the business of developing and delivering new products has also increased across multiple dimensions. The market is more dynamic, with 70% of companies saying that customer needs or requirements are changing more rapidly. About 1/3 say that it has increased significantly. Again, the French Canadian. Manufacturing products has also gotten more dynamic. Over 1/3 have increased contract manufacturing, but more telling is that the majority have experienced more dynamic supply change. In fact, 56% say they have more frequently supply chain manufacturing partners changes now. Half of them have seen continued increase in globalization and the demand for customization. So this is a very busy graph. But just so you know, each of these is challenging. It is important to recognize these challenges are happening at the same time. You don't get to choose. They are cumulative and the complexity is enormous as well. Now, we're gonna focus on the people aspect of PDM for now. This is a 3-part series presentation on PDM. And as you know, collaboration is an essential part of the development process. But nearly half of all companies surveyed by Tech Clarity said that it was a significant challenge. There are collaboration issues internal to the technical resources, such as working on wrong or outdated data. But Just as common are challenges with working with other departments inside the company as well as outside the company, such as customers or suppliers. Now, throughout these presentation, we're going to ask you questions, and those questions are just for you to think about. Uh, Sometimes we present you with ROI and magic numbers like this, but I want to make sure that you ask the questions for yourself, and you can see how PDM can maybe facilitate your day to day. So here are a few questions to help you with your introspection. Are your engineers able to work together effectively? Sending emails or using a shared folders is maybe not the best thing to do. How easy is it for your engineering team to collaborate with other departments such as manufacturing, purchasing, and sales? Can you easily share data and information with outside suppliers and customers? Again, email and FTP sites are maybe not the best solution here. What do you think the impact of these collaboration issue is? Does it slow down product development? Does it result in errors that need corrected late in development?
Yep, and all of what Mark just said there, right, is things that I hear pretty frequently when I talk to people, whether they're using formal data management or not. That's a challenge that all engineering organizations, pretty much all companies see, right, is the flow of data between groups of people and the right access to data at the right time, whether that's CAD or not. These are just common things, and we want to be able to alleviate those problems for people so that you can focus on your primary work function, whether that be designing, manufacturing, whatever that may be, and worrying less about whether or not you have the right data or access to the data, period. Just a couple
Exactly. And that's a great point. Often people were saying, when I was meeting more regular customers, they were saying, well, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we have issues in production. We're, producing a part that is not in the right revision, but it doesn't matter because the material is not that expensive. And I was always the one making them think that, yeah, maybe material is not that expensive, but it's all the time that it takes. It's slowing you down. I mean, it adds up. And that's the one thing that we need to recognize.
Absolutely. 100 pennies is still $1. I like to look at it.
I like that. So let's take a look at the primary sources of collaboration issues. And we're going to see, technically what it means for you. And after that, I'm going to share the screen with my good friend Nigel. So engineers often do not have visibility into what others engineers are working on at any given time. Files are files are edited at the same time a data gets overwritten. I'm sure you all lived this.
Yep.
When team members outside engineering cannot access the data they need to perform their role, it can slow down development and, in worst case scenarios, results in the wrong file being used, just like the example we just talked. Quotes, specifications, maintenance reports, operating manuals, field service reports, assembly guides, inspection reports, service bulletins, and product feedback reports. All these are items managed separately from the design data, fortunately. Sharing data outside the organization usually happens via email, FTP, or services like Dropbox that are entirely uncontrolled.
Yep.
Oops. So, questions for you regarding this. How do engineers know if it's safe to work on a file? How do team members outside engineering get design data? Has outdated design data been used? What was the impact? Where do you manage your non-CAD files related to your product? How do you exchange data with outside suppliers or customers once again?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where I'll take over for Mark here.
Thank you.
All of these things are conversations that I know that I have on a pretty regular basis with people as to what's going on in the company and what are the main causes or not causes, what are the main areas for improvement. And a lot of it is, it'll be a very specific thing that I hear from the customer, right? We want to ultimately do less rework. And
yeah.
Ultimately, when I hear a lot of these things that customers want to improve, if you take it back a couple of steps, kind of find the source of the issue, almost every single time it's data management related, or something, either data management or data management related. So really key is, and that's why we kind of chose to do a big webinar series about this, right? This is a little bit non-standard from the AVA perspective, where we're teaching you how to use a tool. But we think this is just as important as actually the picks and clicks in the application, is to understand the importance of why some of this stuff exists. And if you're, not leveraging all of the functionality in a PDM tool, there might be a reason why to, and hopefully we share that today.
Yes.
So I'm going to go over these all specifically, and I get to kind of shake off the demo rest here. So please bear with me. So that first one, right, is that bullet point with the eye, right? And that problem of engineers not having the visibility into what others are working on at any given time. And we hear this a lot with customers not using formalized data management systems, or using, say, network drives. I think network drives is probably the most common, right? It's so easy to have your IT company set up a Z drive or an N drive somewhere on the network that everyone puts their data into, right? And everyone has access to, so they can see it. The awesome thing is everyone has access to that data. The terrible thing is everyone has access to that data. Absolutely the same thing. And so what formal data management systems use is you get full accountability from a file reservation standpoint, as well as full version and revision history to understand who has been working on those files at any given time. So I'm going to hop in real quick to Vault. Exciting.
Yes.
This is Autodesk Vault Professional. I'm in the 2020 version, and let's go ahead and take a look at some solutions to this problem. So like I said, people don't have visibility into what others are working on at any given time. Well, it's really easy in Vault and other data management systems. Doesn't matter if it's Vault or not. Those systems are intelligent enough to carry the metadata of those files. So I'm going to just hop into, I've got a folder here. And with some of these systems, right, you can manage the metadata of the file, right? Those files hold a lot of really key information. And because Vault has a check-in and check-out functionality, you have the ability to see who performs that action. And that is in the checked out by location, right? So this file has been checked out by administrator, which I'm logged in as right now, because I'm going to work on this assembly. So I checked out all of the parts. Coincidentally, if you want to see what everyone in your organization is working on, it's really easy to set up a simple search. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to carry this over here. And it's as simple as, performing a search for checked out by, and I'm just going to do is not empty, right? So checked out by, and it's just got something in the data. I'm going to go ahead and find all of that information, and it gives me a simple list that I can look for and be able to pull some of this information. It's like, wait, why is Nigel working on this file when, Nigel's not at our organization anymore, or he's on vacation, right? And just having visibility into that's really, really important from the standpoint of just being aware and not overwriting things, and making sure you have the most up-to-date version of the data. Something really interesting too is, I'll give you guys a sneak peek into something. I was talking to Mark about this, and he's like, hey, show that. That's cool. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my Vault homepage. And usually this Vault homepage is the glorious, glorious help documentation for Vault. We've customized it. You can actually edit where that link goes. So at one point in time, I had, some really important CRM information within my Vault. And this information is actually a report using Microsoft Power BI from my coworker's Vault. And this is pulling live information from his Vault as to certain properties. Essentially, you perform a search in Vault that has all of the metadata, and then you can kind of compile it in a report form and get information like this. So as you can see in Jose's Vault right now, if I wanted to know what files Mark has checked out, I can go ahead and just click through here. This is all live, and then it'll update. Mark's got this sheet metal template. I don't know why Mark's got that sheet metal template checked out to him. Maybe he's editing it. So, I want to make sure that, hey, if I need to use this later, that I get notified that, hey, he's checked it in, I can go ahead and use it. It's got a lot of really cool information here for things like he's got 3 files in certain revisions. He's got X amount of files in certain states, and you can kind of sort it based on that information. And then see what people are working on any given time. Like, what would really be interesting to me is if in a certain folder there's more than one project file in Vault, that would be kind of concerning as to why do you have more than one project file if we're all working in Vault. So there's a lot of power behind this. This is all completely modular. You can edit this as you need. This is just something that we worked on, myself and Jose, and we're starting to develop. So hopefully this is ready to really, really dive deep into and share for an AVA moving forward. So
Yeah, this is great. This dashboard is just phenomenal. Great work.
yeah, I'm really excited to use it. I need to fix a couple small kinks, but I think we're going to get it all sorted. So from a standpoint of people not having visibility into what others are working on, this is just part of the puzzle. I can see pretty much anything that anyone's working on from a report like this, and it gets really powerful the more you formalize things. So let's move on a little bit too. All right, so that second bullet point, right, is team members outside of engineering or the product creation department, sometimes not engineering, it's drafting as well, do not have access to the right design data. And this is often something I hear, right? It's like I said before, it's the flow of data between groups, right? Engineering data belongs to the engineering team, right? But it's necessary for that data to move across the organization to get to people like sales and quoting, maybe if they need to show their customer what is actually going to get built, or down into manufacturing, right? And we want to be able to pass this information as needed to those sections of the business so that they can perform their tasks with the assistance of you. In addition, you want to be able to get information from those people and have it in your data as well, which I'll jump into after this. So with Vault Professional, right, you get free unlimited viewers through a web client. And what that means is you get to use glorious Internet Explorer, which is one of my favorite web browsers here. So as you can see here, this is a recording, right? So I'm gonna pause this every once in a while. So before I get started here, this is all in the context of Internet Explorer. And because I'm connected within my network to get to my Vault, right? I can log in directly to what this is called the Vault Fin client through that. And as you can see before I get started here, is you have a full project explorer, you've got your item master, you've got some search results as well. And then you can have full folder structure here as well to be able to find your information. So I'm going to start playing this video. I'll pause this every once in a while. I'm just going to open this IDW file, right? This drawing file, and I'm going to pause this. As you can see, like it's almost exactly the same as if you were to navigate to this through your Vault system itself, right? It gives you a preview of the file. On the left-hand side there, you have all of the properties associated with that file as well, both the system and the user properties. So you can go ahead and take a look at some of that important information. Like I said, this is all unlimited. This is all viewers. So just keep a note, you can't check in things through here, but it's not meant for those sorts of people, right? If people in the manufacturing space need access to the drawing, I need to build this component or I need to build this assembly. How do I do it? And the instructions are on one of your drawing files, right? They can go ahead and do so. And like I said, it's a full viewer. So we're going to go ahead and double click this to open. Give me a moment here. Hopefully I sync this up properly. And it's got a full 3D viewer in here. And people ask me all the time, I need a free viewer for drawing files, or I need a free viewer for assembly files. And why? And I always ask why. And in general, it's like I got an email from a customer, or I get emails from the people in my engineering department, and they need to show me what they're working on, or I need to give this to my marketing team and they need to be able to see what I've built, things along those lines, right? And this is a solution to all of that. Usually it's like, yeah, there are free viewers and you can go ahead and download one of those and download the files. But why do that when you could just use it from the context of Internet Explorer and be able to look at the actual drawing file or the assembly file yourself, right? Within the assembly or part environment, right, you have full access to flip and manipulate the actual file itself. If you're using items within Vault Pro, you got a full item master in here. You can go ahead and take a look at information about the items themselves as well, right? So it's not lacking in any particular area. I'm going to go ahead and open this particular assembly though. And as you can see here, this assembly is fairly complex. There's a lot of components in it. Well, what's important to every assembly that's important to people downstream, people in the purchasing department that you want to connect to? And I think that answer is pretty simple for all of us. It's the bill of materials. That's always a frequent hot topic when I'm talking to customers about the flow of data in their organization, is how do I get how is this built to another system, whether that's purchasing, CRM, ERP, whatever that may be. A lot of times I hear people, hey, we export Excel spreadsheets and we import them, or we hand type them. And that's like the worst one. I really dislike hearing that. It's like, we just hand type it over again. Not as fun. But if you want to be able to just see what's in there, you can go ahead and click through any of this and pull up a full bill of materials, a multi-level BOM of the assembly itself with a lot of information that's pertinent. This is all customizable. Bill materials reports, really awesome. You could customize the report so it's got like your logo on it. You can do a lot of awesome stuff within the Vault Thin client, just to give ultimate access to people who need a level of access to the files without editing privileges.
And what's great is we mentioned it before, having one single source of truth, and that's just a perfect example of it. Instead of creating Excel spreadsheets or anything that would be, like a second life to your products or projects, that everything is included in one single source of truth and available to pretty much anyone that you give access to. So that's amazing.
Absolutely. And that source of truth is always updating, right? As opposed to these multiple manual entries. And I hear that a lot, right? Is, oh, our purchasing department ordered 10,000 of the wrong component because they forgot to update their purchasing information based on our bill of materials. It's like, wait, why would you do that? I have a customer who may or may not have done that and have 10,000 of the wrong part sitting in the corner of their facility waiting to be used on something else. Not fun. So formalizing it in this kind of way is something I think really important, right? And just getting the right people, the right access to the information at the right time. That's ultimately what we want. So let me move on here. That third bullet point, and I'm going to jump back to that slide here really fast, right, is we like using this awesome icon. And I didn't know what this was for initially. Then I realized, oh, this is a link and it's broken. I spent 5 minutes trying to figure out what was going on in this picture. And I think that's really key, right? Is broken links. We hear about it all the time. It is my least favorite thing. We've all seen the error message before, and we want to alleviate ourselves from that. So problem, non-CAD files are managed separately from associated CAD data. And this comes back to that same point, right? Is people in other departments might not be working on an Inventor assembly or a SolidWorks assembly, whatever it may be, but they're working on supplementary data to that, right? It might be an instruction manual on how to build this. It might be Excel spreadsheets. It might be emails from the customer as to what they ordered, things along those lines. And with Vault Professional, right, you can manage all file types. And really interestingly, you can attach files to files, essentially via the use of items. So I'm going to jump into that really quick here. So back in Vault again, as you can see here, we've got a number of files. And before I even get into this, I'm going to kind of just show it really fast live. Is, like I said, we can manage all file types. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to exit my PowerPoint, and I'm going to load this into my Vault. With Vault, it's got a plugin that comes into all of your Microsoft Office products, and maybe this is something a lot of people aren't using. I've noticed that. And I'm going to go ahead and just log into Vault real quick here. I've already logged in, right? I've got a full Vault tab like I have in Inventor or AutoCAD, and you've got the same options, right? Except you just don't have like project information and stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and check this file in. This is my Vault working folder. I'm going to go ahead and check this file in. Let me go ahead and save it to, I'm going to save it to here. Yep, initial check-in. It's the same workflow as you have in Inventor and AutoCAD, except you can store anything, right? And it's intelligent enough to bring on this PowerPoint file. Really interestingly enough, it's read-only now because I've checked it into Vault. I don't have the file reserved to myself, which is kind of funny. And if you just go back into here, right, I've got that file and it's checked into the Vault, and I manage it the same exact way as I would a normal file within here. So really interestingly enough, you can do that kind of on the fly, which I think is super interesting. So let me go ahead and jump back in. So with items, right, there's two ways to control your files in terms of life cycles. There's file-based and item-based. And in this way, I'm going to be using item-based. I'm going to go ahead and assign an item to this assembly file. and it's going to go ahead and see all of the associated files. It understands there's a file link between, jump back there again. It understands there's a link between this assembly file, the associated IPN file, which is that presentation file, as well as the drawing file. It understands those things are connected, as opposed to something like a Dropbox or a network drive where it doesn't really know those things are connected, right? Microsoft Explorer, right? Windows Explorer is awesome in the sense that it's so simple to move files around. It also sucks for CAD because it's so simple to move files around and not understand how those things are linked together. So within this item, right, you've got information like bill of materials. You can see all of that stuff. But more importantly, we're going to go ahead and show off some of the functionality to be able to attach some pertinent information to this assembly. And so this is just for the sake of doing a very simple demonstration. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of attachments here. Bring this window over. And then I can go ahead and add attachments to those files. And those attachments don't have to be CAD files. They could be PDF files like I've added here. They could also be Excel spreadsheets, which I'll go through and add again, right? You can have unlimited attachments, right? And we understand that CAD data is not the only thing that drives an assembly. There's other things as well. Maybe you have an Excel spreadsheet driving some of the dimensions of your components. Perhaps if you're using something advanced in iLogic or something, and you can have that Excel spreadsheet attached to the data as well and kind of manage that whole thing as opposed to all of these disparate files being connected from one another. So hopefully that answers some of those questions that came through. Mark, do you have anything to add here as in terms of being able to manage non-CAD native data?
Yeah, it's so important for people outside of the CAD world. There's a lot of managers, product managers, program managers, project managers that need to get involved, salespeople, purchasing. So having people connected to the single source of truth, even if they have no clue how to run a CAD system or even how to spell CAD, they can still use the Vault to store their files and make sure that everyone is using the latest and the greatest.
Absolutely. And the references are correct and all of that stuff. Because the last thing you want to do is print out a drawing, bring it to the shop floor, and then have that drawing on the shop floor while you're revising it, right? And maybe they accidentally build the wrong assembly over there based on what you're, I'm making a model change to that right now. You guys shouldn't be seeing this. Those are things you definitely don't want to hear, but I've heard a few too many times.
Yeah.
And then that last component too is sharing data outside of the organization usually happens between things like email, FTP, things like Dropbox, or Office 365, things like that, OneDrive, things along those lines. I'm definitely guilty of this. I remember for an AVA a long time ago that I worked on with Mark, we emailed files back and forth to each other. Terrible idea. We should have been using something like Fusion Team to store that data, but it's cool. So what's the solution for this? This is something I hear all the time, right? How do I get my drawings approved to people who aren't in my immediate network? I don't want to give them VPN access to get into my vault. Maybe they only need to see certain files. I don't want to see everything. I only need to see what's pertinent to that organization. Maybe you're working with a vendor and you want to give that person access to write things into your vault. They're a consultant working on one assembly for you, perhaps. You want them to be able to access just what's necessary for them to complete that job and not see everything else you've got in your vault, your 20 years of product history. And so what's a good solution to that, right, is cloud sync options. And I said cloud sync options like Dropbox are probably not a great idea, but yeah. Autodesk has created some cloud sync options that are CAD agnostic. And what I mean by that is it's CAD aware, understands that there are links between the CAD files. It does maintain information that is important to your data management system as to things along the lines of what files come with this, right? This is an assembly file, but it's got 50 parts in it. Well, where are the rest of those part files? It needs to carry that information over as well and understand that there are links to those. And that's something I'll show right now. I said I'm going to use a cloud sync tool. Why am I in Vault? Well, you want to sync your Vault data to the cloud ultimately, right? So I've got my Vault screen up here. This is just a folder in Vault for this cartridge assembly. And you know what? I want to share this with somebody who might be working on this or approving this. Well, how do I go ahead and do that? There's a couple of ways to do that. Maybe I can use some of the shared views functionality, but in this case, I want them to be able to edit this file if necessary. So I'm just going to hit this upload to cloud drive function here. And if this is configured properly, you can go ahead and send this up to the cloud drive. What I'm in now is I'm in Google Chrome. I'm in Fusion Team, which is another product that Autodesk has as well. Might be similar. It's similar in nature to maybe you've used A360 in the past. It's using some of the same technology for that, but it's maintaining a bigger project than just your personal A360. And as I hit that cloud sync, right, it goes to the job processor and things get uploaded. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this page. As you can see, some of these files are starting to come over from the vault. As I'm bringing those files over, right, I've got a group of files. Well, what's important to the person on the other side, right? If they want to, say, review the file, they want to open that file up, maybe take some measurements, maybe look at an exploded view, right? Those are things that you can do within here. Maybe they need to download the file. They can do that too. These cloud syncs can be bi-directional, right? So if they make a change and upload it back into here, it can go back into your vault. Really interesting. So I'm just going to go ahead and show up some of the explode model functionality within here. Really awesome to be able to see what's going on the inside of a particular model. And I'm going to pause here as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at this model. It is super complex, I know. Took me a really long time to put this guy together.
Something I would do.
Absolutely. So say, for example, I'm working on this and I had sent this rectangular prism. Let's just say let's ignore the this cylinder here, right? I sent this rectangular prism to Mark, and Mark's like, awesome. That might work for the assembly, but I think it'll be better if we add this cylinder for some reason. And I'm like, cool, awesome. Well, Mark's not in my network. As we know, Mark is in good old Canada. I'm in California. Probably not on the same network. And so what does that mean? That means that Mark doesn't have access to my vault without VPNing or something into the system. And I'm going to send him this through Fusion Team. Well, Mark's going to take that file down. He's going to start editing it. He's going to make it look a lot prettier than I did because I don't have a refined design mind for sure. He's going to go ahead and add this. And what's he going to do? He's going to go ahead and save this down into a drive that syncs directly to Fusion Team. So he's going to go ahead and save this rectangular prism down into this folder. And then as you can see here, oops, let me go back about a half a second there. This is the file that I uploaded, right? It's just this rectangular prism file. And this is the file that I sent over. Well, someone made some changes to that file and uploaded it to the drive. If I refresh this, right, you get another version like you do in Vault. It shows you, hey, there's another version in here. It's still loading the visualization for that. And I've got that file. Well, awesome. This file's in the cloud, right? This is not in my Vault. What if I need to use it in my assembly? If you create a bidirectional flow back into Vault, we'll jump back into Vault here. You see you have one version, and please excuse like the smoke and mirrors for the editing sake. This would have taken a really long time to actually do the demo. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this again, and I've got this from the cloud drive, right? As you see here in the comments, it's downloaded from the cloud drive. I've got version 2. I've got rectangular prism, and I've got that awesome cylinder in here. So if you need to work with somebody outside of your network, you're not restricted to using things like email, right? This is intelligent. If this was an assembly, it would understand that it's linked to a bunch of other components. And this part file, right, if it's being consumed by a bunch of assemblies, it would, when you open those, it would update to this awesome one with the cylinder in it, things along those lines, right? Really important, and things you don't necessarily get with something like Dropbox or email in general. Anything there you want to add before we move on, Mark?
No, this is, you nailed it. This is so important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it's so simple to set up. Fusion Team, sync to Vault. It's awesome. I use it to communicate with customers. Sometimes people send us files through Fusion Team for us to diagnose things along those lines. And so I just want to go over this slide really quick too. This is one of our customers that we've been working with. This is Central Arizona Project. And we've worked with them a lot in the past to improve how the data flows within their network. they've had Vault for a considerable amount of time. But we've made a lot of changes and some customization and some automation to be able to help them. And I'll just recite this quote here. This is from Holly over there at CAP. And we now have the ability to manage and work on concurrent designs, as built, and record drawing life cycles while maintaining a high quality and integrity level on each document. With our ingenuity, it has allowed the ability to resource workloads at a greater level and detail than that an industry standard approaches. Really awesome. They've started to leverage a lot of automation and a lot of customization of their data management system, right? They've been managing their data for a long time. But to be able to leverage some of these more advanced tools within data management, instead of using Vault as a simple repository for the data, has gotten them really far. And that's something that we want to be able to share with people, just so you're leveraging the most out of your applications, right? You have Vault, maybe you have it installed, maybe you have Vault Pro installed and you're not using all of the functionality, right? You don't need it. It's maybe that's what sometimes I hear that, right? So we don't need it. We're managing the files okay. We understand how that works, but we don't maybe need the release system or things along those lines. But you know, we've got a couple of customers that really leverage all of the tools, and they've gotten really, really far. And so I'll work with Mark here on this slide. A lot of people have questions as to what's included with Vault Basic, what's included with Vault Workgroup and Vault Pro. Hopefully this demystifies a little bit of that from the people perspective, right? From a functionality perspective, well, there's more, right? This checkbox list gets a lot longer. Mark, do you want to add anything here?
Yeah, I want to make sure that people recognize that there's no right or wrong. Using a company could have one single seat of Vault and making sure that all the designs are quote unquote vaulted to keep the history and the change of the projects or products. This is important because you never know when a customer will ask you to revisit a revision or a version that you send. So it is also very important to keep all those, to make sure that you have a PDM centric methodology of working. And all these three different flavors of Vault have their own goods. Vault Basic will come with most of your products or collection, but you will get a little bit more with Vault Workgroup. And, you know, mainly I want to say that non-CAD access is incredible and starts with Workgroup. Then if you want to push the envelope a little bit more, Vault Pro has a great integration for bill of materials and also items. What's great about it is all the other connections that we have for our different solutions, like Fusion Team, BIM 360 Docs, and Fusion Lifecycle as well. But that should be a nice segue for the next episodes of our series.
Absolutely. And with that, right, we're going to go ahead and start jumping into some questions here. I know there's a decent amount that have come through. So I'm going to go ahead and go through those. It looks like Andrew's asking, right, we use the term PDM for product data management. What's the difference between PDM and PLM, which is another acronym we use all the time?
Super good question.
Can I go over that really quick?
Sure. Think of a dartboard. PDM will be your bullseye, your central dot, where all your data for your products are stored. PLM is product lifecycle management, and it's everything that you need to deliver, produce, ship, maintain, warranties and whatnot. So you need PLM for that. So if you need to have some kind of supplier management, you will use a PLM for that. If you need some kind of a maintenance schedule for your products, you will use PLM for that. All these, everything that's BOM centric but not 3D created, PLM will be a good aspect for that. For example, you need to deliver your products with a maintenance manual. Well, that maintenance manual, you will never 3D model that. You could use a PDM for this, but having your maintenance manual inside a PLM where it has its own life, that's the best way to go with this.
Yep, or you can kind of manage how that gets delivered through the course of the the life of a product
Yes.
or an assembly. Additionally, too, right, is NPI, new product introduction.
Yes.
Yes. Is something that we hear a lot. That term is getting used more and more, I think, in the industry. And NPI can get managed in Fusion Lifecycle. It's just being able to manage things that aren't the CAD. It's the information about the CAD, right? But it's not the actual CAD itself.
Yes.
And so a common misconception that we hear a lot here at Kativ, I'm sure Mark has over there at Autodesk as well. I've been on some calls with them and we've definitely heard the same thing, is are they mutually exclusive? And no, ideally in an ideal world, you want to be able to store your design data in a PDM system.
Yeah.
And then have information about that data in a PLM system. And I think the ultimate end goal would be for those two systems to talk to each other, right? And be able to pass information through each other, right? People ask all the time, right? I really like to use a formalized ECO functionality. The one in Vault Pro is not sufficient to what I want to do. I want to customize something really crazy with a lot of gates and a lot of reviews and things along those lines. I want to take full ownership of the entire process of my ECO process, right? Or ECN process or ECR, whatever you want to call it. And so oftentimes, like, I've got that ECN process, it's customized, built in my PLM system. I use something, right? Whatever it may be. But I need to unlock and lock the CAD files while I'm making the changes through all of those gates through my ECO. Well, if you integrate them, you can have that happen automatically, which is ultimately the end goal. And I think the coolest thing for that. But that was a great question, right? The PLM PDM debate. As to, do I need one? Do I need the other? Do I replace one with the other? Definitely not the case. You definitely want to use both.
Yeah.
All right. So Vault and Microsoft Office. Does it work for Excel? Does it work for Word? Yeah. So I showed it worked for PowerPoint. I literally did it in front of everyone's faces right here. It definitely works for Outlook. It works for Word, Excel, all of those Microsoft Office products. They all have Vault tabs. Yeah. And if you want to turn those on, you can do so within the Vault add-ins installer, and just, there's a setting there to turn on the Office integrations.
And one, tiny bits of it's just something very geeky. When Vault was created, we made sure that the interface looked as closely as possible to the Outlook interface. So this is why when you open it, it is not scary. It doesn't look like something that you have to learn. It feels natural. So again, geeky enough for you?
That's cool. I've never actually heard that before. I learned something today. Hopefully you all did too. That's cool. I never actually realized that. It is very, very welcoming, I think, and simple to kind of browse through. That's cool. With the cloud or so with the thin client, how do you set permissions to files? So yeah, we've done a full webcast on the thin client itself. And a lot of the permissions around the thin client kind of go back to, I think ultimately is the life cycle states of the files.
Yeah.
Most of the time when people have non-CAD people look at CAD data, they want them to look at only release data, right? Yes. They don't want to see any work in progress stuff. And I think Mark can agree with me on that.
Oh yeah.
You don't want people in manufacturing to look at something you're working on and then they accidentally build that and you're like, wait, it's not done.
Yeah, I mean, usually our customers will use the thin client only with release documents, like you just said. And I think it's the best way to go. That way you don't confuse anyone with work in progress or anything like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So generally the best way to control the visibility and control the security of your files is to utilize some of the lifecycle functionality in Vault. But you can do some user-based stuff as well. So if you have any specific questions about how all that works, let us know. Cool. And that question you just sent in, Mick, definitely. He says that our PLM system or our PLM definition sounds kind of like an ERP system definition as well. And mentions that, some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say a PLM is a great bridge to ERP. So from PDM to ERP, PLM will be a perfect bridge. But also to go with the acronyms again, NPI, new product introduction, is very PLM centric, and also CAPA, corrective and preventive actions. if you have warranty issues and everything like this. It's not PDM centric. It is definitely not ERP, but that would be, a perfect target for PLM.
Definitely. Yeah. And oftentimes, right, these systems get confused for one another. They all have very specific uses. There are some overlap between some of these 3-letter systems, right? PDM, PLM, ERP, CRM. There's more than enough. But there is some overlap on certain systems, definitely. But I think that PDM and PLM are definitely ones that are mutually exclusive, can't be replaced with one another.
Yeah.
And ERP2 is a completely separate thing.
And we have to be careful because sometimes those vendors will also say that they do PDM. But as we know, CAD files are so complicated, not because of the files themselves, but for the structures, the parent-child relationship. And all those relationships are very hard for a non-CAD PDM system to manage and recognize. So be cautious if you want to use a PDM, quote unquote PDM system that is not necessarily from a CAD vendor, because you could end up with large problems. For example, an AutoCAD file with some XREFs and some PDM systems will never connect together. So all those links could be broken forever.
Absolutely. And I've seen that happen a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I have to resolve the links every time I open the file?
Exactly.
It's like, well, the PDM system is not aware that there are links. All right, we got a question from Gage. What type of attributes can you pull from like the associated and linked files? Can you do custom ones? Certainly you can. So there's a lot of properties that these Word documents, Excel documents, they hold. And you can have those come into the files. You can map certain properties from those files that you have into properties within the vault as well, much like you can with any regular old CAD file. So I urge you to try for yourself, if you know how to do some property mapping for CAD files, to go ahead and just do the same thing for Office documents and see what happens. And then Brian Kelly typed in all capitals, talking about the dashboard functionality that we created to be able to show some of that awesomeness. And it looks like he wants to see how that works. If you want to see this dashboard functionality again, I'm going to bring up my vault because I like talking about this. This is something we got some information from our friends over there, Autodesk, as how to do this. And essentially, you can change the homepage to whatever URL you want. This one just happens to be to a live report. But yeah, it's super, super simple to set up once you have all of the flow together. You just need to be able to obtain the right information and then kind of dilute that information down to what you can actually use in the reports. So we're going to do an AVA on this when I polish it a little bit more with my friends here at the company. And yeah, it's a little bit different for every release. So keep that in mind as well. But if that's something you want to learn more about, like just type it in. And the more I hear about it, the more I'll have time to work on it. So really excited about that one. And Mick's asking, with Vault Professional, how much programming is typically required to integrate with ERP systems? Mark, do you want to chime in on that one?
Yeah, usually, so the simplest recipe would be to use Vault Pro to get an item and export that item in a format that could be consumed by your ERP system. There are some companies out there that are creating bridges for the big ones like SAP. But most of the times I will try to not convince is too much. It's too hard of a word, but I will tell our customers, if you have someone inside your company that is very, very knowledgeable on the ERP systems that you have, let them or let that person see one of the bill materials that comes out of Vault and ask them maybe to reconnect the fields from ERP to that bill material. Sometimes it is very simple, depending on what kind of ERP you have. So I think the first pass you can have at it is maybe to export a bill material in a neutral format from Vault Pro and then try to reconnect those fields. But again, if you Google search quickly, I don't want to name any names, but you could search those bridges. And also Cative can help you with that. They have the experts for that. If you don't have any internal wizard for your ERP system, start with Kativ, and you're in good hands, that's for sure.
Yeah, and just an extension of what Mark just said too. It's the way that you look at how easy or hard it is to integrate the systems is it depends, right? Is how hard is it to translate the information? There's two languages here, right? One language from Vault and one language from your ERP. What does it take to translate one language to the other? Right? Sometimes so Vault Pro, right? So we use part number, right? Or part no dot, right? What if your ERP system uses part ampersand for part number? Those are some of the things that you would need to do. You need to essentially massage what you get out of Vault into use whatever you want to, whatever analogy you want to use. You want to change that file into a file that could be read by your ERP system. And whatever does that in the middle, doesn't matter what it is the method in which you do that. We have some preferred methods to do that. We've done it for a couple of customers, pushing things like bill of materials straight into ERP as one-way bridges. We can do it two ways. If something changes in your ERP, you can push back to Vault. We've done it for people, and it changes every time based on the actual need of the customer. So ultimately, it depends on what you want to accomplish in terms of how much quote-unquote programming is required to do it. But for the common systems, we've done it before. So if you have any questions about your exact situation there, Mick, let us know, and we can take a look at it for you. All right, let me go see if we got some more questions. Yeah,
like that.
Brian says that this dashboard is a gold mine and he wants to use it. So awesome. Yeah, I like, those are the things I like to hear about, because it makes me and the rest of us on the team here understand that, hey, we're trying to develop something that's going to be useful to our customer base. So definitely, if you have any suggestions as to what you want to see in a dashboard functionality like this, let us know. We have a big list of stuff, like how long a change order has been open for, who has the change orders, things along those lines, and kind of manage all of that. I think those are really important information to have. I think that's everything I have for questions, Mark. Did you have anything else to add before we let everybody go today?
No, just thank you very much. This was the first of a series. We started slowly with people. We're going to get a little bit more technical with the other ones. So be sure to tune in and register for those webinars. And I'm looking forward to talking to you really soon.
Absolutely. The next one's going to be in a couple of weeks. We've got a little bit of a break for Thanksgiving. So I think it's 3 weeks from now is the one that we'll be doing next here with Mark. So stay tuned for that in your inboxes. And everybody in America, have a good Thanksgiving break. Mark, you're in Canada. So
yeah, my Thanksgiving was a month earlier than yours. It's in October,
absolutely,
but
Canadian Thanksgiving. So
yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, happy Thanksgiving. Hope you guys have a good time with friends and family. And thanks again for allowing me to be on that call.
Absolutely, Mark. You have the host permissions. You can go ahead and close this when you're ready.
Oh, thank you very much.